Good morning. So the topic is uh, for 11th class IP. It is Introduction to Emerging Trends. So since everything around us is digital nowadays and computer oriented, so computer is not the only digital device that we can see around us, but instead there are other devices also like the smartphones and other hardwares which have software embedded in it. So there are many kind of digital devices around. Routers we can very easily see. Even in our schools there are routers, switches. These all are digital devices. Also the smartphones and laptops, computers, the tabs, iPads. These all are devices that are generally connected to connected in a network. And it is important, this all the things related to this digital devices that are very common nowadays and have become state of the art technologies. Those are emerging trends. So some of the emerging trends that we can see nowadays are these. These are the points that we will cover in this chapter. So the first I will cover introduction to emerging trends. Then this is AI, artificial intelligence. Then big data. So we will discuss what is big data and where all we can see it being used, and what is the importance of the big data and how one can use the big data efficiently. Then there is Internet of Things, IoT, and how it affects our environment, it affects our surrounding and where all it is present. Then there is cloud computing, grid computing, and blockchains. So in computers nowadays, whatever the state of art technologies are present, whatever trends that are emerging that we can see all around us, those are emerging trends and they gain popularity. They have become so famous and have stayed. There are many technologies that are introduced on daily basis, but only some technologies stay for longer time and they become popular enough and are important enough. So only some of those trends or some of those technologies stay. So we call those technologies trend. This is NCRT. This is NCRT book that I have downloaded from ncrt.nic.in website. This PDF you can download. So coming to AI, artificial intelligence. So what is AI? It is whenever we see how can maps when we use smartphone and we have to travel from point 1 to point 2, then we can use maps. So when I use a map, Google Map, then it tends to tell us many paths and generally finds the shortest path that we can cover. Also it gives us the real time shortest path. Real time shortest path means that there can be traffic congestion, so it will actually see the real time situation, and then will tell us the appropriate road that has to be taken, the path that will take shortest time. So this is real time data. So how these maps work? These maps use AI, artificial intelligence, the intelligence of its own, the computer related intelligence. Then we can see on social networking sites, for example Facebook, there is a thing called tagging in photographs. With the help, whenever there is a particular face, then you try to tag those faces in a particular photograph. But even if you don't tag nowadays, then it gets automatically tagged. How? It is because of artificial intelligence. That is the software that is already present in that application. It processes the image with the help of image processing and tags and it recognizes that face, those particular faces, and if it knows if such faces have already been tagged or those are known faces, then it will automatically take those tags from the memory and put it on the face, on tag those faces in the images. So this is also with the help of, this also happens with the help of artificial intelligence. Then we can see some devices. There are devices, digital personal assistant devices coming nowadays. For example, Siri, Google, Alexa, whatever we ask them to do, whatever we ask them to do or play, they start doing that. So what happens is, whatever we say, the speech is converted to the text or digital medium, and the analog medium is converted to digital medium, and that digital medium is processed inside that device, and likewise accordingly whatever instruction we give, according to that instruction the device processes it and gives the output. This is artificial intelligence. Different kinds in which the artificial intelligence has been used. So it simulates the natural intelligence of human beings into machines, thus making them behave intelligently. So human beings are known to be intelligent. So what these machines or devices do, they try to replicate, imitate how the humans would respond. They try to imitate the humans' intelligence. That's why this is known as artificial intelligence. So they imitate some of the cognitive functions of humans. These devices, they imitate some of the cognitive functions of humans like learning, decision making and problem solving. Okay, then there is this machine. Then the next topic is machine learning. So machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence. In this there are certain algorithms that are written, that are programmed inside those devices, and with the help of those programs, those programs do, they take some data first. They take some data, then generally it can happen. Generally what we do, see, we have some data. With the help of some data, let's say some statistical data, we have a lot of data, and we can see that data, we can see some pattern, trend happening, and then with the help of those trend or patterns we can take certain decisions. So in case of machine learning, what happens is there is a lot of data and then there is device. So there is in that device it has been programmed according to some algorithm, and whenever some data is given to that device, some data is fed in that device, so training happens. That is the algo is trained according to the data, and in that particular way the device gets set. Then there are two types of data. The first one is trained data and then testing data. Training data and testing data. Training data is used for the training purpose, while testing data is used after training, when the model has already been trained, then to check whether it gives all the outputs correctly. For that, testing data is used. One example is in case of image processing, machine learning is used too much. For example, there is what is image processing? For example, there is an image, then we have to detect humans in an image, we have to detect people in images. So there are many algorithms that are used to detect people in the images, whether humans are present in that image or not. So what kind of algorithms are used? For example, if if that if the object has legs, hands, face, eyes, nose, these traits are present, then there is possibility that human is there. But it is not important that it is not 100% sure that if these traits are there, then it is human also, human only. It can be other kind of species, it can be ape, it can be monkey or other animal which has only two eyes. For example, let's say the human is covered, only his face is visible, so the face can be, if we only compare those eyes, nose, then these traits are also present in other animals also. How will it differentiate any other animal from humans? So here machine learning is used. A particular humans have this particular kind of nose and eyes. So for this, training data is given. It attaches, it says that this type of eyes are in humans, this type of nose is present in the humans. So if search data, so in training data, it trains the device that it trains the device that this nose is for humans. Whenever these eyes are present, this is for humans. Okay, so with the help of training data, so training data has to be huge. It should cover more number of cases. Then only we can say that training data is robust or good one, or is of good quality. So after this training data, there is testing data. So in case of testing data, also should cover many cases, and it checks whether the device has been trained properly or not. Next is natural language processing. So what is natural language processing? Whenever we type on Google, Google search, there is predictive typing feature. So whatever we type, even if you type a single word, it will predict the next 2-3 words that must come. So these are keywords. So with the help of the words that we type, those are keywords. It can associate other words that can later follow after that particular word. Then natural language processing, the language that we use, that language that humans use for interaction, that is natural language. Many kinds of language are, there is natural language, then there is programming language. Programming language are those languages like Python, C, Java. Natural language, these are higher level language that we humans use. So generally computers cannot easily comprehend these natural languages. So there has to be some kind of programming done that converts humans' natural language into computers' language. So the language that we humans use, the English is also, all the languages, all the vernaculars and English that is present, these all are natural languages. So the computer cannot directly decipher it, comprehend it. So computer has to convert this natural language into its own language, let's say some digital language. So this process of converting this natural language into another digital language is text language. This is natural language processing. So it deals with interaction between human and computers. You might have seen the example of natural language processing in your phones, in your smartphones, where in the Google search tab you can see that there is an audio button also present there. So if you click that audio button and say something, Google please search images of smartphones, so it will give you the result. It will give you the result accordingly. It will display you the images of all the smartphones present in the web. So what it did, it has converted the text into it has converted the speech that we have given as input into text, and that text has been written on the Google search bar, and according to that text the processing has been done and we got the output. So what has happened? The speech has been converted to text. This is natural language processing. What our natural language has been processed. So machine translation is rapidly emerging field where machines are able to translate text from one language to another with fair amount of correctness. Also, when I say that the natural language processing is the process in which we convert the speech from speech to text, also the vice versa is also correct. When it converts the text to speech, then also it is natural language processing, both the process. Then the next topic is immersive experience. So immersive experience is the kind of environment. For example, here there is 3D videography, three-dimensional videography. So whenever you might or might not have seen movies, those are 3D. So whenever you go to the cinema hall, they give you some different kind of goggles, some eye device, so that you can see the 3D movie that is being displayed on the screen. So this is the one place where you can see the 3D videography. Why is it so big? To make the movie interesting, to make the movie more immersive, so that you get immersed in that experience of watching the movie. To make the experience of watching the movie more interesting, this 3D videography has come into the scene. So this is the one place where you could have seen a 3D videography, or it is used. The second case is video games. In video games also such kind of immersive experiences are used, so that the player can feel the real time scenario. For example, so that the player feels that he is interacting with some real world. So to make that experience more real world like, the video games also tend to use immersive experiences. So you visualize, feel and react. So it enhances our interaction and involvement, making them more realistic and engaging. So there are two cases that we have discussed. First is in cinema halls, second is in video games, then third it is also used in simulating real time experience. For example, if some organization has to provide some kind of training where they cannot use actual hardwares. For example, if the pilot has to be trained, then if the pilot has to be trained, then he cannot directly sit inside the plane and start driving, start flying. So here it will be too risky. So what is done in such cases? So here in such cases, such immersive experiences are important when the organization has to impart training in some critical situation. Such kind of immersive experiences are important. So what it does, what the organization, how they deal with such situations, they provide a simulator. So it is a simulator. So it simulates a real time aircraft situation, all the environment where the pilot sits, and so to the pilot it actually feels like he is actually trying to fly a real plane, but in reality it is not so. But to him it appears that he is trying to fly actual plane. So it is all simulating the real time experience. And whatever instructions it will give, whatever buttons, whatever instructions it will give as input to the plane. Accordingly the simulator will act. So there are two important components of immersive experience. The first one is virtual reality and the second one is augmented reality. So in virtual reality, uh, also known as VR, so it is a three-dimensional computer generated situation that simulate the real world. So we generally search VR headsets are used. So to him it will appear that some real world some different, not the actual one but some different artificial, but it will appear to him real. Some computer generated real digital situation has been created to him, and these are and it totally takes him to some different kind of environment, and it is completely digitally generated, computer generated. So it promotes sensory information like sound, smell, motion, temperature, etc. So it is a new field. So it promotes sensory information like sound, smell, motion and temperature. What are its applications? So applications are in gaming, military training, medical procedure, entertainment, social science and psychology, engineering and other areas where simulation is needed for better understanding and learning. So it is a completely computer generated environment that we can see around us, and it simulates some real time environment. Then there is augmented reality, also known as AR. So here the superimposition of computer generated perceptual information over the existing physical surrounding is called as augmented reality. So to the actual world, the actual world is converted to the some digital world, and then then it is more like real world around us only, but some augmented reality, something has been added to it. There is some added component to the digital world. So, augmented world implies added, something extra. So something extra digital has been added to the actual physical world, or whatever the input we provide, those are augmented realities. So there is an app, location, with the help of location based AR app, travelers can access real time information. Next topic is robotics. So robotics, why robotics came into scene? Humans cannot perform all the tasks with accuracy, some repetitive tasks with accuracy all the time. So robots are used. We can say computer is basically a robot is basically a machine capable of carrying out one or more tasks automatically with accuracy and precision. So wherever there is some task that is supposed to be repetitive and accuracy is needed, in such cases robots are used. Or if it is too much labor intensive which humans cannot perform that efficiently, then also robots are used. And there are many kinds of robots like wheeled robots, legged robots, manipulators and humanoid. So here some kind of and what are the applications of robots? They are used in industries. Industries, it is generally used in factories, industries. For example, robots are used to either to lift up some heavy material or to deal with substances, that elements that can be harmful to humans. So instead of using humans, they tend to use robots. robots can deal with those substances. If, for example, if they are radioactive, then in such cases only robots can be used. Then it can be used in medical science. In medical science, what happens? Generally the kind of robots used in medical science are too small. These are micro robots which are entered inside your to check some part of your body, some organ of the body, to have thorough study of that organ, that particular robot which is too small, micro small. It is entered inside your organ, and and there is some camera inside it, so it takes the recording of the whole organ, and either gets destroyed or comes out in some way. So the recording is then studied by the doctors extensively, so that they get to know the actual medical condition of the patient. Then it is also used in scientific research and military, etc. In case of military, it is used, for example, drone is also a type of robot. So many places where military cannot reach directly, the place that is not accessible to military or is too harmful for humans to reach, their drone can easily be taken into use. So there are some types of example where robotics have been used. So the first one is NASA's Mars Exploration Rover. This mission is a robotic space mission to study about the planet Mars. So in this rover was sent to the Mars to take images of the environment, surroundings of the Mars, so that to know whether life exists on Mars or not, or whether there is any potential for the existence of life on the Mars, which can be known by the study of the images that are taken by such rovers. So humans cannot reach Mars, they cannot live in such they cannot exist in Mars environment for long. Hence, in such cases, robots can be used. So hence rovers are used to take images of the surroundings. Then the second point is that Sophia is a humanoid that uses artificial intelligence, visual data processing, facial recognition, and also imitates human gestures and facial expressions. So humanoid is the robot which is like human. They can, so Sophia is one of those humanoids, and they use artificial intelligence. That is, they try to replicate the intelligence of humans, and they can identify the faces around them. They can identify the human faces around them, and they can identify the objects around them and move around those objects. And now the technology has advanced so much that they can also react to the situations. If some human is trying to interact with the robot, the humanoid, then it will also interact properly, and also give facial expressions with gestures, facial gestures and expressions, along with the work that humans can perform. Then there is drone. Third point covers drone. Drone is an unmanned aircraft which can be remotely controlled or can fly autonomously through software controlled flights. So some software, some programmed chip is embedded inside the drone, and GPS is enabled in it. And likewise, it can take information. It can take videography of the surroundings and send and let us know about the situation. So what are some examples where drone can be used? For example, in journalism, in filming, and in aerial photography, shipping or delivery at short distances, disaster management, not every place humans can reach when there is some sort of disaster. For example, even in COVID-19, the police cannot cover all the areas themselves, so they were using drone to check whether people are following lockdown or not. Then it can also be used for delivery and shipping at short distances. So next topic is big data. So what is big data? Big data is all the what can we infer from the name big data? Big data means huge data. So what is huge data? Nowadays internet is available to everyone. So for example, if there is some social networking site, for example, there is Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and we have Diksha portal. So there is so much of information gathered. Even in some social networking site, when there is some image that is uploaded, so just imagine how many users are present on the social networking sites. Millions of users are registered and they sign and log in on daily basis. And on daily basis, there are many activities associated to that user. For example, he or she can upload some update some status, upload some image, and corresponding to that image there are so many likes of so many people. Also the account holders have so many their informations registered in the site. There is so much huge amount of data that is nowadays that is being created in every second, which on all this data, every time we log in we have this data. So all this data, it means that this data is stored somewhere in some format. So that is big data. So here there is one image that shows all the networking sites. For example, there is Instagram. So many images are there, and each image is of, for example, if there is one image, this image is there, then what is an image? It is made up of pixels. What is a pixel? The smallest unit of a image is a pixel. So if you know about bits and bytes, let's say one bit corresponding to one pixel, there is 8 bits reserved in the memory. So 8 bits reserved in the memory corresponding to one pixel. And just imagine how many pixels might be there in this image into 8. So and into these are 46,200 images uploaded. So just imagine the amount of data that is created every second of the internet usage. And then there are so many sites. So all this data has to be stored somewhere. So such kind of data are big data. And if they are stored, these are voluminous. So if they are stored somewhere, also these kind of data are generally unstructured. There is no particular structure. We cannot store it in one fixed format, in one fixed structure. All this data. And also there has to be some tool. If we are storing it, then there has to be some process. It has to be processed so that we can derive some useful information from the given data. So tools has to be generated, processing tools has to be generated. So all these there are many aspects of the big data. So big data sometimes hold rich information and knowledge which is of high business value, and therefore there is a keen effort in developing software methods to process and analyze big data. So whenever there is a huge amount of data present, this which is unstructured. So this unstructured data has to be processed properly. So this unstructured data has to be processed properly so that useful information can be mined from it. That is, it can be gathered, extracted from the given big data. So the tools has to be generated so that the data we get is efficient. So there are some characteristics of big data. These are the 5 characters that are very important. These are the characteristics of big data. These 5. So first is volume. So when I say big data, it means huge data. Volume. So it is voluminous in nature. Such kind of big data is voluminous in nature. So such data is too large to store. So there is traditional DBMS, database management system, that is generally used to store some kind of data in some small setting. For example, they are stored in some, they cannot be stored in some traditional DBMS. So some other kind of tools has to be made, have been made to store such huge amount of data. So it is the one characteristic of big data that is volume. So the second one is velocity. Velocity means how fast such data is generated. So this data under consideration is being generated and stored. So big data has an exponential higher rate of generation than traditional data sets. Then there is variety. So since it cannot be structured in some one type of data, so it asserts that a data set has varied data such as structured, semi-structured and unstructured data. So it has too much of variety. When we visit some social networking site, the kind of data we can see is of many types. So also there is text, images, videos, web pages present in one single social networking site itself. So there is huge variety in big data. Then there is veracity. So the veracity means trustworthiness of the data. So whether the data that is being processed is correct or not. So it deals with correctness of the data, trustworthiness of data. Then there is value. So the data that is stored is too big and it has to be of some value. So some patterns, so it is analyzed properly and some patterns and trends are found so that some decision or prediction can be taken. So the data should be of some value, so that some trend or pattern should come out of it. Otherwise there is no point of storing such huge amount of data. Then next point is data analytics. So data analytics is analyzing the data, then reading the data. So much data is present is created on day-to-day basis. So you will have to analyze the data. So there is some process techniques which are taken into use to examine the data set, and hence whatever conclusion that comes out after examining or processing the data, then some kind of conclusions that are made, then according to which decision has to be taken, or some predictions can be made, since data has to be useful. So one example here is Pandas. Pandas is a library of the programming language. Pandas is a library of the programming language Python that can be used as a tool to make data analysis much simpler. So normal humans cannot analyze such huge amount of data, the big data. Hence, there are already some libraries present. Pandas is just one of them. Pandas is a library which has been made with the help of the Python programming language, which we will learn later. Then there is IoT, Internet of Things. So what does this mean? Nowadays we are surrounded with many devices around us, many digital devices around us, like laptop, desktop, server, portable devices like table, smartphone, smartwatches. These all are connected in some network, either with wire or wireless. The wired one is LAN, and in wireless the internet, it is connected via internet or Bluetooth. So there is a network here. All these devices are connected inside a network. Hence they form internet, and with the help of which these devices can communicate to each other. Even we can see these gates. These have some kind of gates can have some kind of microcontrollers embedded in it. Gate is an hardware. So inside this, if some software is embedded, some chip is embedded, and accordingly, and then with the help of some mechanics, it should be able to open automatically. So some sensors are then installed in the gate. So whenever it senses that someone is around or someone is approaching the gate, so then whenever the sensor takes that input, according to that input, the chip has been programmed to move in some particular way, so the gate will open automatically. And this is how all many such devices in our surrounding, in some surrounding, if they get connected, this is Internet of Things, IoT. So there is one example here. For example, if a microwave oven, an air conditioner, door lock, CCTV camera or other devices are enabled to connect to internet, we can access and remotely control them. Then there is Web of Things. So if in case of Internet of Things, in case of IoT, to connect the smartphones or computer, if one app is installed in one device, then that app has, and there are n devices total present, then that app has to be present in all the n devices. That is, then that app will have to be installed in all the devices. So n different apps would be required. So instead of that, wouldn't it be convenient to have one interface to connect all the devices? So here the interface that is being used is web, and hence there is WOT, Web of Things, that allow the use of web services to connect anything in physical world besides human identities on web. Then the next topic is sensors. Sensors are the units. These are units that receive. Humans have some sort of senses. For example, touch. So the skin is a sensor which can recognize the touch sense. Eye is a sensor which can recognize which kind of sense it can recognize. light, sight, it can recognize. So sensors are the units that receive some input, some kind of sense, some kind of input. So there are many kind of sensors which can sense even the temperature. Also they can sense some motion, if some motion is happening around. So these sensors are used in IoT devices, and according, for example, the example I gave of the gate, so there the sensor was used to detect motion, if some motion is happening which is of being approached, that is some human is approaching, some object is approaching the gate. So there a sensor has been used to make the systems more intelligent, to make the gate more intelligent. A sensor has been used. Then there are also the one another example is our smartphones. So there are two sensors that are present in our smartphones. First is accelerometer, and then there is gyroscope. So accelerometer sensor helps to detect the orientation of the phone, and gyroscope sensor tracks rotation or twist of your hand. So with the help of these two sensors, the phone can, we can get the actual actual movement of the phone. Smart cities are the one in which with the help of these IoTs, WOTs, all the buildings, all the infrastructure has been embedded with such kind of microcontrollers, and they are in networks, so they can act automatically with less interference of humans in it. So such kind of cities are smart cities, because it has become important because of increasing population and because of limited resources around us. So the limited resources have to be used by increasing amount of population. So humans cannot do it on their, humans cannot actually do it efficiently. So technology has been used. This technology is IoT, Internet of Things. Then there is cloud computing. So what is cloud computing? So in IT, if there are services that has to be delivered by the internet, if some processor has to be used, some more processing power is required, or some more amount of memory is required, some more amount of data is required, then in such cases there are some servers that are placed distant to us, those, and we call this cloud. So cloud computing is more like we try to use there are many categories in it. There is a memory based cloud. So for example, if there is Gmail, so there is Gmail cloud also. So already there are servers installed, and we cannot have too much amount of memory in our system itself. So what we do, we store all the data that we have. We can store all the data that we have in those clouds, in the memories that are present in some distant location, but it is abstract to us. So the memory is abstract to us. We do not exactly know where exactly in the memory our data has been stored. So the abstract memory is cloud. So one way is to use it as a memory. The second is, as we can use it for more increased, enhanced processing power. If we cannot have huge computing powers or processors present in our systems itself. So if we want to access some others, so if we want to access some so this with the help of the cloud computing, we can use some other processors, set of processors that are present at some distant place. So we can take help of those processors to complete our computations. So this is cloud computing. So then there is cloud services. So we can think of these cloud computing as services. They are providing us services of more memory, services of more processing power. So some standard models are, the first one is IaaS, that is infrastructure as a service. Then second one is PaaS, platform as a service. Then SaaS, software as a service. So first, infrastructure as a service. In this they provide us with some infrastructure, computing infrastructure. For example, servers generally, if we need more memory, then they are providing us the service of more memory. So they'll provide us with more memory, we can store more data there. So they are providing us with servers. They are providing us some infrastructure. Then there is virtual machine, storage and backup facility. And then there is platform as a service. So if we cannot have all platforms available to us in local itself. So if you want if you want to create some application and we want to develop some application and test and deliver it, then we might have to use different kind of platforms. So there are such services that are provided that gives us those platforms. So suppose we have developed a web application using MySQL and Python. To run this application online, we do not have to configure it on our local system itself. We may get this from Apache already installed in some other computer or some place infrastructure. We can automatically use that already installed software, that already installed platform. We do not need to configure that platform locally. We are using some others platform. Then there is software as a service. So these we can think of it as Google Docs, Microsoft Office. These are the applications. These are softwares that has been written and that we can use. We do not need to install these applications in our systems. We can use these applications or softwares directly on the cloud itself. So without buying the license or subscription, we can use these applications or services in the cloud itself. So this is software as a service. Then there is grid computing. Grid computing is whenever all the computer network is geographically dispersed and all the nodes are heterogeneous in nature. So nodes are the units, the small devices. All these devices we can refer to them as nodes. So so from sitting at one place, we can use the grid of computers if they are connected to each other, if they are in a same network. So this is grid computing. So this can provide us with more power. So we can also say that virtual supercomputers are created this way. So a person sitting remotely, which is connected in network to a grid of computers, can use the resources of those grid of computers. The resources means they can use more memory, then they can use more computing power. Since any request that is created at that remote location that is sent to the grid of computers, then it is distributed. It can be distributed to all the processes present in that grid, and that result can then come back. The computed result can be sent back to the remote device. The condition is that these computers should be in one network. All computers should be connected to each other. Then grids can be of two types. First is data grid and the second is processor grid. Data grid is used to manage large and distributed data. That is, the data is distributed. The memory is used of all the computers that is connected in a grid of computer, that is connected in a grid, that is connected in a network. And in case of processor grid, the processing power, computing power of the CPUs are used and not the memory. So there are these two resources generally which are important when it comes to computer. The first one is memory or data, we can say. The second one is processor or computing power. These are the questions that can be covered. Thank you.